We will now kneel.
Miss Cinema, no.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black. I'm calling on oil companies to pass the savings on to consumers. Consider this. In the second quarter of this year, profits at 6 of the largest producers, publicly traded oil companies, were more than $70 billion. That's $70 billion in just one quarter, 90 days. 70 billion. So far, American oil companies are using that windfall, the windfall of profits, to buy back their own stock, passing that money on to their shareholders, not to consumers.
That is what the president said, but instead, he asked the oil companies to give back to consumers instead of hemming them up, letting them know we're going to do something about this. How about a windfall profits tax? That would help a lot. Asking them, it's almost like asking the fox that guards the hen house to do right. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's the same thing over and over again. We see our president pleading with oil executives that have made so much profit. I mean, profit on top of profit on top of profit on top of profit, all at the expense of the everyday citizen in this country. So he recently wrote a letter to the president of ExxonMobil begging him to lower the prices. President Biden, I want to remind you, brother, you're the president. You ain't got to beg nobody. Just lay it down. Lay down the law on these folks. They are unpatriotic, what they're doing. A director of fossil free media, Jamie Him, called for more action. Let's put up Jamie's graphic here, his tweet. This is more like it. Now tell Congress to pass a big oil windfall profit tax. That's exactly what we need to have happen. The Stop the Oil Profiteering campaign echoed the same message as Jamie did. This is what they went on to say. The price gouging from big oil is unacceptable, and that's exactly why we need a big oil windfall profit tax. The most simple first step to stop this profiteering and deliver immediate relief to working people across the country. Data shows that a windfall profit tax targeting big oil is massively, let me bold, underlines, underscore, exclamation point, massively popular with the people of this country, the people in the United States of America. Let's put up what Dr. Robert Reich tweeted, shall we? The 5 biggest oil companies are on pace to make $140 billion this year. Yeah, that is billion dollars with a B. We don't have to tolerate big oil's greed. Britain's conservative government enacted a 25% windfall profit tax on oil and gas. If Britain's conservatives can do it, so can Biden and the Democrats. That's real, Jay.
When's the last time you heard maybe the president of the United States wondering when this group of random folks, middle class Americans, working class folks are mad about something, and therefore if they're upset about it, especially when it comes to economically, tax breaks, any of that stuff, that he's concerned himself with enough to go, you know what, we're gonna stop it right there. No, it's only certain groups in certain industries. This is a big oil problem. As you see, the 140, I think it was $140 billion they're looking to make just this year of those few 5 companies. It's unfettered capitalism. So if you can be about announcing how much of a capitalist you are you in favor of unfettered capitalism when there's no regulation? In fact, if you have enough money, you can do whatever the hell that you want. We have a bunch of libs, we have a bunch of Democrats that have been toying with the idea of socialism, even though we have socialist policies and legislation within our government already. Fine, but they have to make sure they made that clarification. This was a big term now. I'm sorry, I'm not a socialist. I'm a democratic socialist, just so you guys won't be afraid of me. How many times have you heard capitalists have to identify and make sure that they tell all us libs, hey, don't get mad at me. I'm not an unfettered capitalist. I'm a controlled capitalist. I'm a regulatory capitalist, because they're not. There's no such thing in this country. It's unfettered capitalism, and everything that you do is to make sure that you give these folks more money because they paid the folks that make those decisions to give them more money. Why aren't we afraid of all of these tons of regular people who are like, I'm sick of this? Instead of just using their stories of sitting around the dinner table wondering about the food, putting $5 in their gas tank. If you're using them for their stories, why aren't you listening to them and helping them get out of that situation? Because they don't have the money. It has nothing to do with their problems. It has to do with who's paying them. It's the same story over and over and over and over again. I could say the same thing about the next problem in our country economically and how our regular citizens are getting screwed over. It's the same story.
Over and over and over again, Jay, the owner donors get to be in control. Now, Dem strategist Mike Lux said the following: there is not a reason in the world Democrats need to be defensive or mushy about their plan for inflation. Populist message on this issue has been tested repeatedly by the smartest posters in the business, and it works. You know what? We need to stop wealthy corporations with monopoly power. Plain and simple. This laissez-faire way of dealing with the economy is not working at all. Well, I take that back, Jay. It is working for a certain class of people, but for the overwhelming majority of folks in this country, laissez-faire does not work. And the fact that taxing big oil and gas is popular with the people, it should be happening, but it is not. And it's one of those things that make you ask why. And I'm glad you asked why. It is because absolutely the owner donors are in full control. The Democrats absolutely need to be harder on these corporations. Dr. Robert Reich got that so right. Yes, he 100%. Did.